Tech News today, free Samsung phones if you're an influencer. White iPhones coming later this year, maybe. And a $35 computer that may or may not actually be $35. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, July 23rd, 2010. Tech News Today is brought to you by tockphoto, the web's original source for royalty-free stock images, media, and design elements to help you get creative with your website or blog. Check out their special offer at istockphoto.com/technews. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
And behind the board is our excellent producer, Erik Lanigan. Hey, Erik.
Wait, are you sure I'm Erik? I'm all confused. Who are you guys?
Well, I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm really confused. Did my audio go out again? No? Okay.
Oh.
I'm Tom, but you're in my chair, Sarah. Because I'm in San Diego at Comic-Con.
You know, it's so weird, Tom. I sat here and the music started and
It's the chair. It's all in the chair.
It was you. I don't have a beard. Wait a second. I'm not Tom. You did this, Erik. Wow, I was confused for a second. It felt good, though. It felt really good.
I'm glad you did that, actually, because I was up late last night at Wootstock.
What is Wootstock, Tom?
Wootstock, I'm glad you asked, is Paul and Storm, the band Paul and Storm. They're probably best known in the geek community as the opening band for Jonathan Colton. So if you've gone to see Jonathan Colton on the road, Paul and Storm usually open up for them. And they have started doing a Nerd Fest. It's around 3 hours long, normally, around the country. They've done them in Chicago, Minneapolis, San Francisco, Portland, and they did one in San Diego last night at Comic-Con. So you get Will Wheaton, whom you, of course, you know as geek extraordinaire, and some of the less geeky of you know only as the guy who played Wesley Crusher on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Adam Savage from the Mythbusters was on stage. The Bad Astronomer, whom we all know has been a guest many times on TWiT, was a guest back in the Tech TV days. He did a thing on stage. The Nerdist, Chris Hardwick, was on stage. Marianne Carr, Molly Lewis. There was a ton of music and jokes and nerdy fun and little meme bits and stuff. And usually it runs about 3 hours. They have an intermission in the middle, and they sell merchandise, and they hang out afterwards and sign autographs, and it's just, if you're a nerd or a geek, it's a whole lot of fun. And it was a whole lot of fun. But they got started late. The venue they were in, I guess, is used to having, like, rappers and punk bands. So they were searching every single person. And of course,
really?
All these people have iPhones and cameras and all this stuff. They're looking for guns and knives. They're not finding any of that stuff, but it's just their policy.
Isn't that funny? All the nerds are getting together and the venue's used to the rappers and the punk bands.
So they had to
Packing heat.
So they had to get started a little later, and it went on a little long. But such good fun, and I'm not sure if they've scheduled the next Wootstock yet. But go to Paul and Storm's website. Just search Paul and Storm Wootstock. You can spell it with O's, but you probably should spell it with zeros, and you'll be able to find out if there's a Wootstock coming near you. That, my friends, was good nerdy fun to kick off Comic-Con. And then I went and registered, and I got this Comic-Con bag that is seriously the size of my entire body. Like, check this out.
Now, this is just sort of the swag that they give you when you register and get your pass.
Yeah. This goes from the top of my head to
my God. You can fit a person in there.
You could do this show from within the bag, Tom.
It actually, I think,
I'm kind of suggesting it
as a swag bag, but as an anechoic chamber. So you can test cell phones in.
Besides the fact that we're looking at a picture of an upside-down man, I like the bag otherwise. It's a neat piece of swag. I don't know what you would ever fill that with. A lot of bread boxes.
Yeah, a bunch of swag. People are giving away free comic books and manga, and people are buying toys and getting little tchotchkes and stuff. So you could fill it up, although I think they tend to fall apart a little fast. These things aren't built to last necessarily.
Sure. It's a good tote for the beach or a person.
And, of course, the big
to get
news,
rid of a body.
The Tron Legacy trailer was shown off last night at a panel, so that seemed to be what everybody was buzzing about this morning. But there's lots more good, nerdy Comic-Con fun coming. So if you want to feel a little bit like you're at Comic-Con, go look up the Tron Legacy trailer online, take a look at it, and then just go talk to everyone you see about it. And that'll pretty much bring you up to speed.
I like the sound of it already. Scared me for a second. This is neat looking.
Oh, yeah. No, they had a life cycle out on the Comic-Con floor that you could ogle, but they weren't letting anybody get on it and ride it, sadly.
Yeah, big surprise. Wow, I thought they'd let everybody take a ride around the floor. That seemed safe.
All right, on to the tech news. The iPhone 4 case program went into full swing today. The way it works is you download an app on your iPhone, and what could be easier? You load the app, you put in your iTunes account number, and it gives you a choice of cases. You can buy the bumper from Apple, or you can choose from a few other third-party cases, and you order it up, no problem.
And
right?
if you already had a bumper, that's the way that you would get a refund as well, correct?
Yeah, it depends. If you ordered it through Apple.com, then you could do it. I think you could do it through the app. If you bought the bumper at a retail store, you have to get your receipt and take it back to the retail store and get the refund that way.
But at least it would make sense that if you've got the iPhone 4, you got the app, then it should be a pretty seamless process. But didn't you have some issues with getting your?
Yeah, well, as soon as I downloaded the app this morning, I logged in. It said your iPhone doesn't qualify for the case program. So I call Apple. I'm on the phone for an hour while they try to track down what the problem is. And then they tell me the email address that my receipt was sent to is different than the email address on my Apple account. And so I have to change that. So I went to my Mac account online. You can't change it through iTunes. You have to go online. And I, put in a new email address, and it still didn't work. It was. It still hasn't. I don't know if it takes a while to go through the system or something, but I'll try it again right now and see if I have any better luck. But so far, not able to get a free case. This happened to me with the tax credit back in 2003 too.
Well, what's happening with me with the I've got a iPhone 3GS and then an iPhone 4 that it's on loan to me, but iTunes is getting confused now. When I download an app, it'll recognize that I downloaded it once. I'm logged in as the same person, but it's confused that I would want the same app on two different phones. So it just keeps saying, "Well, what's your credit card information again?" So it's I'm in some sort of an endless loop. So not a perfect system. Frankly, I'm not surprised that there are some email discrepancies.
But so all these cases are 3 to 5 weeks out, right? So much for Zoom.
The bumpers are faster, but if you're ordering a case, you're 3 to 5 weeks away. And the bumpers are apparently, if they haven't sold out yet, they were pretty close to sold out.
And you only get the black one, no colors.
Yes, any color you want, as long as it's black.
Well, I have to say it's annoying that they're not giving you a choice, but I have a white bumper. And it was only white for about 3 days. So
and now what color is it?
It's gray and dirty.
Yeah.
And it looks like old tidy whities.
Dirty gray?
It's just dirty gray. So really, a black bumper, while not all that exciting, is probably your best bet if you don't want something that just looks dingy. The pink. Who wants a dingy pink bumper? Anyway, speaking of white things, Tom. Did you hear the one about the white iPhone that's not actually going to be available at the end of July after it was already pushed from June? Now
it's going to be all dirty and dingy and gray anywhere.
I know.
That's the real reason.
Yeah, who needs it? So it turns out that Apple's promise to, when the iPhone 4 came out, it was black right now, white very soon. Then it was, white end of July-ish. Now it's white end of year-ish. So the white iPhone 4, the release has been pushed out yet again, and we don't have a solid date. And it's annoying to folks like me who are I wanted the white iPhone 4 from the very beginning.
For the white one before you buy one, right?
Yes, I have been waiting, and this just kind of makes me go, well, iPhone's going to go to Verizon, blah, blah, blah. And there are all sorts of, there are conspiracy theories that I'm reading online. One of them being, well, it's not really because that there's some sort of difficult manufacturing process to make the exact same phone just in white, right? It's like two pieces of glass that are white rather than black. They're fixing the antenna issue so that when the white phones finally come out, then there's great fanfare and nobody's complaining about anything. That's one theory, and frankly, I don't think it's that far-fetched. Another one, well, why not just hold it to coincide with Apple iPhone going over to Verizon possibly? I don't know if I jive with that conspiracy theory so much. I don't know, Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, the real issue here seems to be a manufacturing one. That's what Apple has said, and that's what all the valid sources say, is that the company that makes the Gorilla Glass is having a hard time getting the white paint to bind properly. And they just haven't fixed it. I wouldn't say it's unlikely that the antenna issue might have delayed things a bit too. If they're saying, hey, we're getting close to having an antenna fix, hold off on those white iPhones, even if you get the paint working, because we want to put the black ones out first.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blessing if you've got a larger issue. Well, if you're on delay anyway, this might be a good time to fix something else. But yeah.
However, if all of this stuff is frustrating you as a iPhone user, you may want to go on Twitter and bitch about it and use the word Samsung, because apparently Samsung has been finding people on Twitter who are complaining about their iPhones and sending them a free Galaxy S.
Yeah, in fact, Samsung said, and I quote, "We decided to contact a cross-section of individuals to offer them a free Samsung Galaxy S as a replacement, as we're confident that once people have the phone in their hands, they'll see how impressive it is for themselves." The problem is that really the only folks who seem to have this Galaxy S so far, or at least talking about it, are people working in the marketing industry. There's a Condé Nast marketing, digital departments of sorts. So it seems like they're trying to get into the hands of influencers who may then speak nicely about the Galaxy S and influence the rest of us to get one.
Yeah, so if you're not an influencer, you may not get one.
Yeah.
But it's a sweet phone, Android 2.1 and a 4.0-inch AMOLED display. I wouldn't turn it down if they sent it to me. I
certainly wouldn't, and I think that it's, they're taking an opportunity for disgruntled iPhone users or people who don't even have the iPhone yet to try something else. So I can't blame them for that. Maybe they'll have some success with the influencers.
And with that, we should mention our sponsor, iStockPhoto, because if you're going to try something else, you might want to try some different kind of photos on your blog. I mean, a blog comes together when you illustrate it with a good photo. It is risky, however, to just go out on the internet and grab a photo. If you're taking something even off of Flickr, you got to check the licensing. You got to find out what's the deal with the copyright. And even if it's Creative Commons license, are you going to make money off of it somehow? Are you selling ads on your blog? Are you violating the share-alike license? This and that. So if you want a royalty-free, worry-free way to get stock photos for your blog, you might want to check out iStockPhoto. They're great for designers, advertisers, entrepreneurs, bloggers, anybody who wants high-quality photos, illustrations, video, and audio. Photographers and designers from all over the world use them. Ken Shepardson, our IT guy, uses them. Gina Trapani from This Week in Google loves using iStockPhoto. But my wife uses it for a lot of the stuff that she's done in her job at Revision 3. Says it saved their lives a few times when they needed a photo and couldn't remember, wait, did we buy this one? Did we not? You know what? Let's just use the iStockPhoto stuff because we know we don't have to pay royalties on that, and it looks great. They've been around since 2000. They just offered photos back then, but they actually offer more than that now. They offer illustrations, vector images, some videos, that's even harder to find than good stock imagery. Music, sound effects, flash files, 3D renders. Pretty soon they're going to have logos available if you're looking for a good logo for your company. So get creative. iStockPhoto wants to help you say what you want to say without the worry, where they have gorgeous visuals to help you communicate that vision and make the website or blog that you deserve. It's affordable. Images from as low as $1 an image. They make it easy. They have a special offer for the audience of Tech News today, 15% off bundles of 50 credits or more. Check it out at iStockPhoto.com/technews.
I'm going to check out iStock Photo for some of their music offerings. That is something that I never thought to go to iStock Photo for anything music or sound effect related. We're always needing stuff like that. Well, you guys not so much, but Green Tech Today, for example, we could maybe use a little bit of that. So
yeah, if you're starting a podcast and you want to put a music bed down at the beginning, it's risky. You know, there's some music that's pod safe, but what if the person decides, you know what, I want to change that licensing term now?
Exactly.
So, you know, it's a way to pay a small amount of money for a little peace of mind.
Cool. Good times. iStock Photo.
New Microsoft licensing agreement is in the news as well with ARM. ARM are the makers of the processors that run a lot of mobile stuff. In fact, there's an ARM processor inside most mobile phones that you see, including the A4 processor in the iPhone. And Microsoft and ARM just announced on July 23rd they've signed a new licensing agreement for ARM architecture. Now, what this means is that instead of just buying the ARM chip and putting it in their device, like, say, Apple does, Microsoft can now go in and get the blueprints of the ARM architecture and mess with it. They have the license to go and change things in there. So it's got everybody speculating, why would Microsoft want to do this? Are they going to get in the chip building business?
Because Microsoft has said, and even says now, no, that's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. But there's speculation that this has something to do with having an Xbox run more smoothly, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was the Register's take on this was, you know, the Xbox has always had this overpowered processor inside, and it's always had heat issues.
Because once it can short itself out, right? Because it's this big processor right in the middle.
That was a huge problem in the first Xbox when it first came out. So they, and you've heard of all the red rings of death stories. Their speculation is that if they were able to take an ARM processor and play with the architecture a little bit, they'd be able to avoid those heat problems but still have a really powered ARM chip. Now, an ARM chip is still less powered than what you might expect them to put in a game console, but it's not far off. Mary Jo Foley over at ZDNet says she thinks they're probably going to go for a phone tablet, which is something we haven't seen. We see VoIP on a tablet, sure, but actually having a tablet that works as a cell phone as well, that might be something Microsoft is wanting to twiddle around with the architecture to make it run well. So a lot of speculation about what this means, but Microsoft definitely not sitting back on their rears here. This is a big step forward to say, you know what, we want to really try to innovate something new. I mean, how can you innovate something old, right? We really want to innovate in the mobile space. So it'll probably be a year or so before we find out what this is all about, but it's always fun to guess.
Absolutely. And a chilled-out Xbox would be welcome.
Yes, a cool Xbox.
Nobody's going to turn that guy away.
Definitely not. Now, we had the earnings report from Apple earlier this week, and there was a lot of speculation whether Apple was actually going to be bigger than Microsoft. Microsoft came out with their earnings report, and they had a blowout quarter of their own. Revenues of $16.04 billion, enough to keep Microsoft ahead of Apple in the revenue metric. But Apple remains a more valuable high-tech company based on stock price. And actually, Microsoft stock didn't go down, but it didn't jump on this big news. Everyone said, well, yeah, we were expecting a recovery, but what else have you done? Whereas Apple has seemed to weather the antenna storm fairly well, and their stock keeps kind of drifting up. But
and there's a bit of a sort of lingering concern because if you look at the two companies over the last 5 years, Apple has a nice big climb. I mean, very, very, yeah, we're looking at the graph now. I mean,
500%.
500% increase over 5 years, pretty good. Microsoft, and they dip kind of in the same places, so they're following some overall market trends. But Microsoft has been pretty flat if you look at that time period. So it's sort of like, yeah, you had a great quarter. That's not bad news, but the overall picture of this whole thing is concerning.
Yeah, and that's why we haven't seen, Microsoft has got nothing to worry about story. What we're seeing is, well, Microsoft's still fine. They've still got good revenues. Their revenues are ahead of Apple. So it depends on how you define who's bigger who you get to say is in front in this race right now. But if you consider it a race, it's still definitely a race.
Right.
If you were a Blogatree blogger, you have been without your blog now for quite a bit of time. We've talked about this before. It's the blogging service that was pulled offline because their web host, Burst.net, was contacted by the FBI, and they sort of freaked out and took down all the blogs. Joe Marr, Chief Technology Officer of Burst.net in Scranton, Pennsylvania, says that they will be restoring the data of the Blogatree bloggers to a server in zip file format. So they're not going to reinstall all the blogs, but they're going to make the data available. Blogatree has said that they will not be using Burst.net in the future to host the blogs, but they will be restoring the data to their users and moving the service to Amazon, to the EC2 cloud hosting. So most all of the bloggers, I guess the ones that had Al-Qaeda information aren't going to get their data back, but most of the bloggers will get their data back from Burst.net. Blogatree is then going to move everyone to Amazon, and eventually that service will go back up. But you're talking about 70-some thousand blogs. I wonder how many are actually going to weather the storm and stay with Blogatree after this.
Well, and the whole thing is it's Blogatree has sort of wagged its finger at Burst.net going, well, this wasn't handled well. But Joe Marr, who's the CTO of Burst, says that Blogatree has racked up multiple terms of service infractions in the past, and that Burst.net doesn't even make a habit of returning data to customers booted for TOS violations, but he wants his company to do right by the users, the bloggers, the people who were affected. They didn't have anything to do with this, so it's a little bit more complicated than Burst just having some knee-jerk reaction and screwing over a bunch of people. It sounds like the relationship between the two companies might not have been so great to begin with.
Yeah, well, definitely Marr is trying to do to save a little bit of the reputation of his company here, because this has become a huge story.
Right.
And so what he wants to get across is, I didn't do anything wrong. They did something wrong. They're making it sound bad, and we're going to do right by them anyway, which is exactly what I'd be trying to say if I were in his position. Whether it's true or not, you know what? Blogatree is not going to be on BurstNet anymore. I'll tell you that. They've lost that customer for life.
Yeah, and really, what was this, 2 weeks ago when the story first broke? If you're a prolific blogger, that's a long time.
Well, and it goes to show that you have to be careful who you pick to host your data. When it's like buying a hard drive. When you buy a hard drive locally, you have to be careful that you pick a hard drive that's not going to crash on you and lose your data. When you purchase services,
I agree.
Tom, we lost your audio a little bit there. I think maybe by sitting in the chair, I've cursed the show in some way. It seems like something that I would do. That's just kind of the way that my Murphy's Law life works. But hopefully the next time you speak, we'll be able to understand you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Good.
Oh, good. All I had to do was say it out loud. Houston, we have a problem. Problem's fixed. Great.
India's got a $35 tablet computer on the way.
That sounds affordable.
They hope to bring it into production by 2011. Government plans to subsidize the tablets, so the cost to students would be $20, or the equivalent of $20. And they eventually want the cost to fall to $10 per unit. So we're looking at, flash hard drive, Linux OS. They've tried to keep the price low by looking for manufacturing partners. The problem with all of these kinds of efforts is they start off with very reasonable estimates, and then when they start to actually manufacture things, the price goes up instead of down. So this hope of getting it to $10 per unit, I'm really skeptical at. Let's just see if they can make it be $35 from the get-go.
They also mention, there's a solar power option too, and you go, that's great. I mean, for less developed areas.
Tom fell in the ocean.
Tom's in the ocean?
He's drowning.
Swim, Tom, swim.
Someone throw him a life preserver.
Yeah, I don't hear what you're hearing.
Oh, now you're fine again. See, all we have to do is freak out in here, and then everything's fixed. When in doubt, freak out. Solar power option on the $35 tablet computer actually drives the price up a little bit. So I see where you're going with this, Tom. It all, in theory, this all sounds wonderful, but it doesn't always. The actual story isn't exactly how it's put forth.
Let's move on to the lightning round.
All right.
These are some stories that we want to pass along to you, but we don't need to spend a lot of time kicking around. Google's testing new YouTube embed codes that play video using either the company's experimental HTML5 player, or it can use the standard Flash player, depending on the video and the setup of the user system. So our first time seeing embeddable HTML5.
Ooh. Looks like the HP Slate with Windows will arrive, but not for your average Joe like you and me. According to Engadget, HP Personal Systems Group VP Todd Bradley told a conference that the Slate will be more customer-specific than broadly deployed, and that would launch the Microsoft tablet for the enterprise in the fall.
Verizon's growing faster than AT&T, even though Verizon posted a $198 million loss in the second quarter of 2010. They did add 1.4 million total net customers, and according to CNET, that means Verizon signed up 665,000 new wireless customers during the last 3 months, while AT&T only signed up 496,000. So, I don't know, maybe Verizon doesn't need the iPhone.
Yeah, we'll see how those numbers change in January. Google announced on the Chromium blog that it plans to release stable versions of Chrome every 6 weeks. Wow, that could mean we would see Chrome versions 6, 7, 8, and 9.0 by the end of this year. Manager Anthony LaForge, Chrome program manager, likens it to trains leaving Grand Central Station on time.
I think Anthony LaForge should change his first name to Jordy.
Jordy
He has
LaForge. Make it so, Anthony.
It's got to be his nickname, right?
Hey, Jordy.
Well, he either likes the nickname or he hates it.
Or he hates
Somebody
it. He's
call
so
him
tired.
and see. Let's call him Jordy and see if he freaks out or not.
All
Should
right,
we go to
on
the calendar?
Yeah, what's on the calendar, Sarah?
Well, Tom, some pretty cool stuff. Google Life in a Day project takes place this Saturday, July 24th. If you're not familiar with it, you can go to youtube.com/lifeinaday to find out more. Tuesday, July 27th, that's next Tuesday, StarCraft 2 will be released. So if that's on your list, make sure to put it down on your calendar. And a week from today, Friday, July 30th, is SysAdmin Appreciation Day. Definitely last on our calendar, but not least. If you have a sysadmin that you appreciate, I don't know, get those flower orders in, or whatever your sysadmin would like, or a cake.
Tell them you're going to buy them a cake and then don't, and say the cake is a lie, and they'll enjoy the geeky joke.
That's the way to appreciate your sysadmin, absolutely.
On to the voicemails. Our first one comes from an anonymous caller who has an interesting comparison of Facebook and the highway system.
Hey, TNT. I may be sleep deprived, but I actually think Facebook is really the new road, because no one wants to ever be driving. Everyone hates driving, but everyone ends up having to drive to exist in society because our society is built around the car. So I think the internet might be turning into Facebook will be turning into the roads, where just to survive on the internet in any capacity to interact with people, you'll have to be on Facebook. It's like going back to AOL in the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
Either I'm really sleep deprived or I'm just a genius. Love the show.
I like that.
I'm going to go with sleep deprived.
Either I don't sleep at all or I'm really smart, Einstein levels. I get what he's saying. I don't really think that Facebook has ever been the only way to communicate with your loved ones, family and friends over the internet.
I think he's a sleep deprived genius.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like driving all that much. I have to drive a lot these days, but I certainly don't feel like Facebook is this sort of point A to point B thing that I'm forced to do in order to communicate. I still find using Facebook relatively enjoyable. Facebook events I've got issues with, but we won't get into that. Not quite the same. Maybe he is a little sleep deprived.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he's got a good point about AOL, though. Like, that's the danger of Facebook, is that we get so many people relying on it that we kind of have to deal with it, is the overall point. And for a few people I know, that's true. Mm-hmm. And then you are sort of like, well, the Facebook is not the internet. So
exactly.
you have to teach people that sometimes, like, hey, you know what? You don't have to use Facebook to do this. You could contact me via electronic mail,
right,
or via, other things, which I remember having to do with AOL. People were like, well, I can only talk to you in an AOL chat room. I'm like, no, there are other chat rooms. You can go there. it will happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of Facebook being the only means to communication, Tom in England wrote us an email with an interesting thought. Hi, guys. Have you noticed now on Facebook's welcome page it says, it's free and always will be? I guess this is Facebook's attempt to stomp out the rumors that Facebook were going to start charging people to use the site, a rumor that was circulating at the end of '09. Keep up the good work. Well, that would make the whole thing a completely different conversation if people thought that this was the only way to communicate with folks and they were forced to pay for it. Then you'd really have to remind them that, hey, there are free ways to communicate in this kind of the way that you're doing. I mean, Facebook it's a all-in-one solution that's really good for a lot of folks, but certainly not the only one. Speaking of paying for Facebook, is this a rumor that passed me by completely? I mean, do you guys remember hearing a rumor late last year about this?
It's not a huge rumor.
Right.
It's something you see kind of floated out there every once in a while as a theory.
Right.
Like, hey, Facebook eventually is going to have to start charging people, or gosh, just think how much they could make me on their 500 million users if they started charging people, right? So I think Facebook is just kind of trying to nip that stuff in the bud.
Yeah, that seems to be a rumor that always comes up when a service has that many people using it. Is like, hey, if everybody had to just a one-time $5 fee, wow, Facebook would make so much money. Whether or not that's actually going to happen. Another email from Will says, hey, TNT guys, sorry I'm a couple days behind, but I was off work the early part of the week. It's okay, Will, we understand. On Monday, you responded to another email comparing the noises Tom's dog was making over the podcast to sirens on the radio in the car by saying they weren't the same. As a mailman, I can honestly say you're right. Anything that sounds like a dog sneaking up on me while I'm on my route is much more terrifying. I experienced a moment of horror before realizing it was just my iPhone. That said, feel free to have Django around anytime. It's nice to know that mailmen are listening to the TNT podcast while on their route. That's when you know you've made it.
Who knew that, first of all, many mailmen listen to us. It's true, even when I was about out loud, we get a lot of mailmen listening. It kind of makes sense. But who knew that dog voices freak so many people out?
Fudge! I'm hoping this fixes your ISDN problem. Oh my God, it did. We're amazing.
That's the magic word.
All right. Well, I think we've stretched our luck too far, so let's wind this baby up. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening and putting up with our technical difficulties. If you'd like to send us an email, tnt@twit.tv is the email address. You can give us a call, 260-TNT-SHOW, or find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. We'll see you next time.
Have fun at Comic-Con.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Wow.
Okay, let's see if I can memorize this. Come on, Channel Tom, Channel Tom. I'm not a very good memorizer.
I hear you, Sarah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
Did you
hi.
summon me?
No, Tom, you can run along.
Do the tease. You'll be good at it.
Everything's fine, Tom. Sometimes I can actually act like an adult when forced, under duress. Sometimes I can do things right, but Tom has to leave and force me.
I'm still here.
Oh, hi, Tom. I'm sorry. I thought you were enjoying Comic-Con.
I am, but I listen always. I hear all.
Tom is like some sort of a higher power here on TNT. I have to remember that he guides me and everything that I do. Oh. Now I'm afraid to say anything. Fudge!
Fudge.